Rieva Lesonsky is one of the most prolific business writers I ever met. If you check into any business website, most probably there is a piece written by Rieva. She writes about any imaginable issue. It could be about how to start your business in the right way and the best way to manage it.
One of the traits of successful entrepreneurs is optimism. It's believing in your concept that it's going to be okay.
Rieva answers all sorts of questions and covers so many angles about how to become a successful entrepreneur. Aquí en ComoLoHizo.
Éxito.
Success.
Hábitos.
Habits.
¿Cómo lo hizo?
How do they make it?
Descubra las costumbres y secretos de los triunfadores.
Discover the habits and the secrets of those who have succeeded.
Hi again, Fernando Schiantarelli here. I have a guest that to me is actually a real honor to have her. She is Rieva Lesonsky. She is a nationally known speaker and a frequent media guest. She has appeared on The Today Show, Good Morning America, CNN, Folk Business News, The Martha Stewart Show, Oprah, and can regularly be seen on MSNBC, Your Business. And, to talk about Rieva is like to talk about an icon, an institution in the business world, in the entrepreneurial atmosphere. So she is like, we could say, a doctor, a master, a mentor. She is something that I really admire. But there is something else that I like about Rieva, and is that she's humble. Despite all her success, she's humble. And she's always ready to help. And her mission, as she was telling me before we make this connection, is to help others, to help entrepreneurs to succeed. And so we're going to talk to Rieva now. And I hope we enjoy this conversation. You're going to enjoy it. And Rieva couldn't make it to the studio today because she's far away from where we are. So we have a connection through the telephone. So if you hear that she's kind of a little far away, it's because she's on the phone. I have to disclose this, that, but the important thing is that we can understand what she's going to tell us, learn from her, try to apply her experience and learn. So with all this said, I just want to say, hi, Rieva. Thank you for being here in ComoLoHizo.
Well, thank you, Fernando. What a lovely introduction. I am truly honored to be with you. I'm really excited about this. I really am.
Thank you so much. So, the name of the show is How Did You Make It? And the first question that I want to ask you is, so how do you make it where you are at this point? Do you acknowledge or recognize how important and influential and great influencer you are in today's environment in the entrepreneurial world?
It's funny. I got here by accident. I moved to California 40 years ago. I was a trained journalist. I had book publishing experience. I wanted to get out of New York winters. I was looking for a job. I couldn't find a job. I was going to have to go home. And 3 weeks before my deadline, there was an ad in the paper, and it was a job for a researcher, which is what I had done at a book publishing company. And it said, small business experience a plus, but they were, paying $5 an hour. So I didn't expect them for me to be an owner, but I grew up. My dad owned his own business. Both my grandfathers were, small business owners. So I went in and got the job, and it was for Entrepreneur Magazine. So it was purely by accident. I'd never taken a business course in my life, and I was there in the late 1978, before anybody really knew what an entrepreneur was. So I was really lucky to have sort of a seat at the table as entrepreneurship matured and became a passion and a goal for so many. So a lot of it is luck, timing, and I know that I did my part to sort of create I think we all create our own luck. I don't think it just happens. So I know that I worked really hard to be there and create that luck as well.
Tell me a little about your origins. Where are you from? Were you born here? Is your family from some other place, country? Are they immigrants? Tell me about it.
I am a second-generation American, mostly. My grandparents came from either Russia or some parts of what used to be Russia. I once said I was Russian, and somebody gave me a lecture. No, I wasn't. I was Ukrainian, but I can't remember all the parts, and Polish. And most of my grandparents, both my grandfathers, owned their own small businesses. One owned a men's clothing store. One owned several different businesses, a printing business, and then he owned a candy shop, and they owned a liquor store. And so I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up on Long Island, and I moved to Southern California, like I said, 40 years ago, and today I live in Orange County.
Now, in your experience, after all this time, working for entrepreneurs, in a way you were related to the Entrepreneur magazine, which is, an icon also in all this movement. What's your most important lesson that you have learned?
Persistence, I think. There's several. I think you have to do your homework. I think part for young entrepreneurs today, there's things come in fast. People right now, like a couple of years ago, people started saying, "Oh, you don't need to do a business plan." No, you do need to do a business plan. Even if you're not seeking money, you need to do a business plan just so you can lay your thoughts out in a cogent manner, so you know what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. It's just like consulting a map before you go on a long journey. It's going to help guide you through. So you have to do that. You have to do your homework. It's going to be, owning a business is going to be the hardest work you've ever done. It's really arduous. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. I think the benefits are worth it. But you have to be smart about it. You have to plan ahead. You have to know what you're going to do. You have to save as much money as you can, not only before you start, but in the first few years. You have to, if you're young and you're not married or involved and you can still live at home, live at home. You want to save as much of your personal as well as the money you make in your business as you can. Don't go out and buy a brand new expensive car when you make your first sale. That's just being silly.
But persistence sometimes is like stubbornness, and stubbornness sometimes is not so wise. When to detect that your persistence is not going to take you to any goal, or you are wasting your time? What's the difference between stubbornness and persistence?
I think that is such a good question. You have to be passionate about what you're doing, but you also have to develop the ability to take a step back and kind of look at what it is that's happening as if you are not involved in it. And if you cannot do that, you need to find a mentor who can help you. And it's people go, how am I going to find a mentor? Well, it may be people in the industry. It may be a relative. It may be a family friend, or go to SCORE.org, and you can get a free mentor, from this organization, and they're there to help you and be able to look at things with a fresh eye. I mean, sometimes it's not a matter of you're on the wrong path, you need to quit what you're doing. Maybe you're just doing something wrong that someone else can look at and say, maybe if you did it this way, it'll work. But sometimes you're right. Sometimes you're doing it, and you're doing it, and you're doing it, and it's not working. Maybe you're ahead of your time. There are a lot of ideas that people had and failed, and 20 years later someone did the same idea and they were wildly successful. And so you have to be able to judge the marketplace. Do people care? Do you have competitors? How are your competitors doing? If you have competitors and they're doing really well and you consistently are not, maybe there's maybe there's too many people in that field, and maybe it's time for you to adjust or do something else.
So what's the opportunity? What's opportunity? Is something that you look for it, or is something that luck brings to you? And because we hear about so many stories about successful businesses, and they always say, oh my God, the time was right.
Yeah.
Could you expand your thoughts about this concept?
So I think there's different ways to get to success. For some, it is just a matter of the time is right. They hear an idea, they start something, and the time in the marketplace makes sense. Other people do it because they're passionate about a certain product or a service, and they happen to tap into the bigger need for it in the country. I always think that if you're looking for the idea, one really easy exercise to do is, take out a sheet of paper or sit yourself down at your computer and just ask yourself, if there was a business that doesn't exist today that I really would need, if there was something, or if there's something that exists today but you would do it differently, what is that? And just write. Don't think. Just write down all the things. For instance, there have been businesses born. One of my favorite stories is started here in Orange County, where I don't know how many years ago this is now, probably 25 years ago. There were these two young friends, and they were hourly workers at a business in the city I live in Irvine. And at that time, in Irvine, the businesses were all in one section of the town, and all the fast food restaurants were in the other, where the homes were. And so they were always, they couldn't afford to eat at the fancy restaurants near them, so they were always late coming back from work. And one Friday night, they were in a bar with one of their younger brothers. And the two of them are just complaining about one another, because, they're constantly getting docked. They were late coming back from work. There's why can't we get anything to eat? Why is this so hard? And the one who was not there, the younger brother, said to them, shut up, that's the idea. Why can't we bring food to people in the offices? And so they started a restaurant delivery service called Restaurants on the Run. It was one of the most, it still exists, it's one of the most successful ones. As they went along, they developed proprietary software. They've let that software out. People licensed their software. And it was just a matter of airing a frustration and someone hearing that frustration and saying, hold on, there's the golden idea. So think about the things that frustrate you, and is there an idea in that frustration?
Rieva, there are so many advices, so many people giving advice what to do, what not to do, follow your dream, you never say no, never quit, or the others say, yes, you have to pivot, you have to do this and that. How to segregate the good advice from the bad one? Because, in the industry there are many people trying to survive and giving just freebies and, empty advice. How do you detect what is right, what is wrong, what is good for you, what is bad for you in all this jungle of advisors?
Again, what a really good question. I think, one, you have to look at the credentials of those people giving advice, because you're right, a lot of people prompt up and go, ooh, I'm a small business expert and here's my advice. But two, you have to trust your own gut. I really believe that if we sometimes just shut off our brain and just listen to our gut, in a sense, it will guide us in the right direction. That may not be that you're pursuing the right thing. Again, I think finding a mentor, someone who can have that objective view and say, you know what, this isn't going to work, or this is the wrong way to do it, try this, try that kind of thing. I think that's really, really valuable. But I think that when one of the things that I hate, I'm doing what my passion is, but my passion developed because I started doing it, right? So I wasn't passionate about helping small business owners when I got hired at 26 years old at Entrepreneur Magazine for $6 an hour. That wasn't like, I found my passion while doing it. And so I think that some of the people who say follow your dreams or follow your passions,